Chapter 6. It didn't take Aaron more than an hour to realize that while his couch was perfectly fine for napping, it was not a place to spend the night. So instead of trying to sleep, he grabbed a Barks for the caffeine pump and went into his office to work. He could get some words written and then take his turn in the bed. He'd even break out his instant coffee if he absolutely had to, but he hated coffee. He knew he was supposed to love it, but to him, it was just a bitter grown-up beverage that he never wanted to have to drink. He'd only been working for an hour or two when he heard Athena moving around. He glanced at the time on his computer. It was 4:30 in the morning. He was rarely in bed for more than 3 hours at 4:30 in the morning. What was she doing? He left his office, locking the door behind him once more, and found her in the kitchen, digging through the fridge. "Can I help you find something?" he asked. His fridge wasn't particularly well stocked. He usually shopped on Sundays, and he'd gotten married instead. Grocery shopping was definitely on his agenda for the day. "Where are your oranges?" she asked, not looking back at him. I don't have any. I need to shop today." "I'll put that on my list." His mental list. He never made real grocery lists. They were too stifling. It was easier to walk up and down the aisles and grab what sounded good. "How will you drink fresh squeezed orange juice with no oranges?" she asked, looking confused. "I usually just buy a carton of it. Easier that way." He shrugged. He'd never particularly needed fresh squeezed orange juice, because he was happy with the stuff he bought. "A carton? No. You must drink it freshly squeezed. It's so much better for you." Athena frowned at him. "We're not going to live to be over 100 if we don't take care of ourselves." Didn't he understand the plan? "And we're going to live to be over 100 if we do." His dad had died young, but it was a freak accident, not health. He wasn't sure why she thought she had a guaranteed method to keep him alive for so long. "Well, we'll have a much better chance." Athena shook her head. "I'm going to have to put in an orangery when I buy my new greenhouse. For now, make sure the oranges you get are organic. The pesticides will kill us." She peered into the fridge again. "You don't have much in here in the way of healthy snacks. I'll make you a list after our run." Now she understood his need to marry quickly. He needed someone to take care of him. Aaron looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Our run? What run?" He didn't mind running when something was chasing him, or in the cool of the evening, but running just to run early in the morning? Not happening. She looked confused. "The one we'll take at 5 every morning starting today. Didn't we talk about that?" She was sure she'd mentioned it to him. Aaron shook his head. "No, we didn't talk about that. Not ever. I don't go into work until early afternoons, so I don't tend to be up at 5 in the morning." He worked too late into the night for that nonsense. He looked at her, realizing his worst fear had come true. She was a morning person. The earth needed to open up and swallow him immediately. "Well, you can turn over a new leaf. Being a morning person opens you up to so many new opportunities. The early bird gets the worm." She would teach him to be a morning person. It was a skill some were born with, but others needed to work toward. "I don't find worms very appealing." He didn't know why anyone would. She seemed to sag a little. "You really aren't a morning person?" How could she have been so wrong about him? Aaron shook his head. "I'm really not a morning person. I would rather stay up until 5 than get up at 5. I can't figure out what you're doing up." He rubbed the back of his neck, too tired for this conversation. He was up well past his bedtime. "I like to be at work by 6:30. I find that the earlier I start my day, the more I get done." "Don't you?" "Not at all. I don't really get my juices flowing until at least noon." Tomorrow, when you've had freshly squeezed orange juice, you'll see the difference. And I'm going to make you up some capsules with herbs in them for you to take. They'll help your energy levels too." Aaron was dumbfounded. The woman really thought she was going to tell him how to live his life. Why hadn't he taken just a week to get to know her? "My energy levels are fine. They just tend to sleep until noon with me." No way was he going to let a woman who thought she knew all there was to know about herbs force pills down his throat. No way in hell, or Hades as they put it in Greek mythology. "But, how can you be the perfect man for me if you're not a morning person?" she asked, sounding confused. Aaron walked toward her. "Everything about us doesn't have to be perfectly in sync, Athena. We're very different people, and we haven't taken any time to really get to know one another. Give it a bit, and I'm sure we'll be doing things in harmony." Like she'd sleep later, and he might get up an hour earlier. That would work for him. Athena frowned, tears popping into her big blue eyes. "But, you were supposed to be a morning person like me, and only drink freshly squeezed orange juice and run with me." She couldn't believe her marriage was already falling apart after only one day. He sighed. "Why don't we plan to run every night when I get off work at about 8? I wouldn't mind that at all." 8? I'm in bed by 8:30. He liked the idea of that for his writing career. He liked it a lot. "Then maybe we should run separately. I don't think it'll hurt us to do a few things apart. But we can't hold hands while we run if we don't run together. I can see you have very clear ideas about what our marriage will be like, but I have a routine that works really well for me. Do I really need to change it so I can be like you? It would be nice." Athena smiled up at him. "Thank you for offering." She was so relieved that he understood the need to compromise. "You don't understand. I'm not offering. I need to keep doing things the way they work for me. Maybe you could adapt a little, and I could adapt a little, and we'll meet in the middle." She had to be able to see that both of them compromising was the only real way for things to work out between them. "But if you're not up at 4:30, then we can't run at 5. Surely, he could see the logic in what she said. Starting her day with a morning run had changed her life for the better. She wanted to do that for him. "You run at 5. I'll run after I get off work. We'll both still get the benefit of running." Aaron was already tired, and this discussion was making his head hurt. "I think I'm going to go and sleep for a while, since I couldn't sleep at all on the couch." He leaned down and kissed her cheek. "Have a good day at work." Without waiting for a response, he walked into his room and shut the door. He was going to have to be wide awake to be able to discuss anything important with her, though why she was so convinced it was important for him to be a morning person, he would never understand. He undressed and got into bed, setting his phone alarm for noon, so he could go into town and get his storage unit set up. He wouldn't need a big one. He yawned and closed his eyes, determined to get at least a little sleep. He needed to work some more on his book as well. He so wished he'd been a little more diligent, so his deadline didn't seem quite so daunting at that moment. In the kitchen, Athena made herself some toast and ate a piece of cheese. She didn't know how her marriage could possibly work with as obstinate as her husband was, but she was determined not to give up. She left for work without running first. It was going to be a long day. Aaron used her empty boxes to pack up his books and the few articles he'd framed and hung on the walls. They would stay in storage until he was ready to talk to Athena about his writing career, and he wasn't sure how soon that would be. He liked to think he'd feel comfortable talking to her within a month or two, but he wasn't as sure about their future as he had been just 24 hours before. She was an incredibly hard-headed woman, and she was unbending about the morning thing. How could she not understand that everyone in the world didn't need to be a morning person to be healthy? In town, he rented the storage unit, moved his 2 boxes into it, and then he did the grocery shopping. She'd left a list for him, and he got everything she'd asked for. Well, he hoped he had. Some of the things on her list were a little confusing, but he did his best. What was a vegetable capsule anyway? When he got home, he immediately started writing, as quickly and as much as he could. His couple had weird arguments about whether it was necessary to eat organic fruits and vegetables. He was finding the best thing about marriage was coming up with new conflicts for his books. Hopefully there would soon be better things about marriage, but he just wasn't sure that was going to be the case. Athena was a confounding woman. When he had finished 2 chapters, he left the little room, looking back and seeing if it looked strange. He had pulled a game up on his computer, so it would look like that's what he did with his time in there. It wasn't too hard, because he did sometimes game, just not nearly as much as he wrote. He left the door opened, and he planned to tell Athena that he had decided she was right, and she had a right to know about his hobbies. Maybe that would get him back into his own bed. Even if she wasn't ready for him to make love with her yet, he wouldn't be sleeping in absolute discomfort. She got home shortly after 3, and he smiled in welcome, hugging her close. "How was your day?" "Busy." She spotted the open door to the spare room. "You decided to let me see?" she asked, sounding excited. "Yes, I figured you'd learn soon enough that I squander all my spare time playing games on my computer. I just didn't really want you to think less of me for it." She stepped closer to him. "No way." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I think you're wonderful." Then she stepped back for a minute. "Why aren't you working?" She was sure he'd said he worked until 8. "I asked Jim to give me the day off. I thought it would be good, since I didn't get any sleep, and I could clean out a couple of drawers for you. But then I forgot to clean out the drawers, but I did get the grocery shopping done." And he'd gotten so much written, which thrilled him. He didn't want to have to take a ton of time off work for each deadline, but he didn't mind with just this one. "Oh, good. You clean out drawers, and I will fix us a delicious supper." Athena wanted to make him something tasty that she could sneak a couple of herbs into. She had a feeling he was going to be difficult about taking the capsules she made. "I think that's a perfect arrangement. As long as I'm not cooking, I'm happy." She laughed, feeling lighter. His telling her about his room made all the difference in the world. She went into the kitchen and found some of the chicken breast she'd had him buy and started working on chopping them to make an orange chicken with lots of herbs and beans as well as rice. She'd add a little spinach and some asparagus. It was going to be the best meal he'd ever eaten. She was certain of it. Aaron felt a little guilty for not being honest about his time in the spare room, but he knew it wasn't yet time in their marriage for her to know the full truth. He would be as honest as he could about as much as he could, but it wasn't in his best interest to tell his new bride he wrote romance novels. He cleared out his top 2 drawers and moved all of his hanging clothes to one half of the closet. It wasn't like he had a lot anyway. His 3 pairs of shoes were moved over to the side of the closet with his clothes, and he cleared off the shelf at the top of the closet for her. When he was finished, he smiled. It should be plenty of space for her. And he'd written enough that day that he didn't have to worry about writing any more until she went to bed. Then he'd have to really go nuts typing quickly, but he had all the next day as well. He wasn't working again until Thursday, which should be plenty of time to finish the book. His next one wasn't due out for a few months, so he would have time to tell her in between. The supper she made was fussy in his opinion. So many tiny little things chopped up into perfectly good chicken. He'd thought most of the stuff in there was for salads, not for stir-fry, but he told her it was wonderful anyway. He wanted her to feel good about what she did. After supper, he cleared the table while she loaded the dishwasher. "Would you like to go for a walk?" he asked as soon as she'd started the appliance. She nodded, her ponytail bouncing. "I would love that." "Then let's go." They walked toward the horse barn. "I want to check on twin foals who were born here recently." I don't really need to check on them, but I think you'll like seeing them. And Artie helped deliver them. Only Artie would make up a job for herself and actually be able to make a living at it. Athena smiled. Wyatt seems like a really nice man. Now that she was married, it was easier to be happy for her sisters. He is. I don't know him as well as Bob, Cade, Jim, or Deck, but he's nice. Ted and Wyatt both have offices away from the stables, and while they come down often, I still haven't gotten to know them like I have the others. Did you go to school with them? She asked. Yes, and no. We were in the same school, but they were 2 years ahead of me, so I knew them, but I wasn't close to them. When I graduated, this seemed like the place to work though. I knew I wanted to work my way through college, and the pay was good enough that I was able to take online classes and finish in 4 years, right on schedule. It had been a tough 4 years, but he was now really glad he'd done it. And he had no student loan debt. He didn't have any debt for that matter. That must have been hard working that many hours and studying as well. What's your degree in? She asked. English. Creative writing to be exact. It was the first time he'd told someone besides his own mother about his degree, and it felt good to talk about it with her. Really? I don't see you as a writer. What do you like to write? He shrugged. I don't have a lot of time for writing, he lied. I tend to just play around with it sometimes. I see. She didn't tell him that she only read romance novels or nonfiction books about herbs or crystals. She wasn't sure how he'd react to either thing. When they reached the horse barn, Rusty was there, brushing down one of the new horses that had come in just for training. While the Cauldrons bred horses, Jim and his team had developed a reputation for training them as well, so if someone had a particularly difficult horse, they were often hired to train it. When Rusty spotted them, she immediately turned her back, and Aaron frowned. He hated that she didn't feel like they could still be friends now that he was married. Of course, he had no idea how Athena would feel if he had a friendship with a woman who had a crush on him anyway. He led her over to Moonbeam and pointed out the 2 foals, who stayed close to their dam's side. Oh, they're so sweet. Aaron smiled. It was the response he'd expected. The barn was mostly empty due to the lateness of the hour, and he headed out after she'd cooed over the animals for a little while, and they walked toward the big house. Who lives there? Athena asked, happier with this walk than she would have been a run. During the walk, they could talk and get to know one another better. During a run, they both would have been too out of breath to carry on a conversation. Maybe Aaron knew what he was doing after all. That's where all 6 of the Cauldron men were raised. Now it's just their grandfather and his housekeeper, who is really more like a family member at this point. Her name is Griselda. Is she the one who keeps making people eat cupcakes? Aaron nodded. She cornered me and forced one on me right after I spotted you. I was going to try to talk to you, but with the red icing all over my face, I thought it might be a good idea to wait. And icing on his shirt. He shouldn't have resisted the cupcake so hard, but he hadn't been hungry. She laughed. I can see that. I guess you don't take well to being force-fed. He shook his head. Not at all. He hadn't been super pleased with her supper, but he'd eaten it. It was just a little too frou-frou for his tastes. He'd felt like she was force-feeding him supper. How would you feel about taking some herbs I make up for you? I mix them myself and I put them in vegetable capsules. Oh, I should tell you. I had no idea what a vegetable capsule was, so I didn't get any. The guy at the grocery store looked at me like I'd lost my mind when I asked. He shook his head, remembering trying to have a discussion about them and the man just acting like he was crazy. She shook her head. I'm not surprised. They tend to stock them just for me. When he was silent, she added, so would you take the herbs I make up for you? He frowned. What would they be for? He didn't like medicine of any kind, but herbs just sounded strange. General health and longevity. If you ever started to have health issues, I'd make something specific for whatever issue, but to begin with, I'd just make the stuff that would help us both live healthier lives. Aaron didn't want to do it, but he was still feeling a little guilty about the lie. Is it important to you? He asked. If she said yes, he'd take them. If not, he'd tell her no. Athena nodded. It's very important to me. Then I'll take them. It was something little he could do to make her happy, and he really did want her to be happy and their marriage to work. Thank you. She smiled at him, and it seemed to him that there was more light coming from her than the sun. Thank you for caring enough to make them for me. He made a big loop around the main house, and then headed back toward their little rental. Maybe next week we can talk to an architect about building on your land. How much do you have there? Only 4 acres, but that should be plenty for a house and my greenhouses. Sounds good. I'll start asking around for someone. He looked at her. Unless you want to draw it up yourself. I know nothing about designing a home. I'll be happy just to live there. Aaron was pleased to hear it. He didn't want anything weird, and he was sure that would be the only thing she would be capable of designing. Living in a geometric dome wasn't something that appealed to him. Chapter 7. When they got back to the house, Aaron hoped that Athena would be amenable to consummating their marriage. Although, he wasn't sure it was okay for him, because if they did, it would be based on a lie. But he certainly wasn't going to be able to turn her down if she offered. He closed the front door and looked at her, and she was stretching and yawning. I'm going to get another nice long bath. She smiled. It's so nice to have a bathtub again. Oh, I bought you candles today. The supermarket only had birthday candles, but I figured we could make them stand up somehow. He was sure she had the ability to be creative with them. She laughed and flew to him, hugging him close. Thank you. I brought some candles from my place, but I so appreciate the thought. He smiled. Good. I know it was a little goofy, but I wanted you to have what you need. He liked buying her little gifts, and he could see she liked it when he did. He'd have to remember that and do it more often. Like a ring. She had no engagement or wedding ring, but he could take care of that soon enough. Athena shook her head. No one needs a candlelit bath. They're just nice to take. She had a book hidden in the pocket of her bathrobe that she'd brought from her place. He'd never know she was reading it, and that would work out very well for both of them. I've never had one. I'll have to try it someday. He wouldn't. Well, actually he might if it would help him describe the experience in a book. He found that he'd do just about anything for his craft. Yeah, your bathtub isn't big enough for 2, so I won't be inviting you to share. He grinned. I'll take my shower in the morning. He usually took one first thing in the morning, and another after working with the horses all day, but since he hadn't worked, he was good to just wait till morning. All right. You go game, and I'll have my bath. She stood on tiptoe and brushed her lips against his. She felt a lot better knowing what he'd be doing while she vegetated in the bathtub. Aaron watched her go into the bathroom and lock the door, and he moved quickly into his office. He shrank the game and started typing, working out a few of the issues his hero and heroine were having. A nice gesture on the part of the hero made the heroine go all gooey in his arms. He approved. Very much so. He knew how good it felt too. He lost himself in the book, writing 3,000 words, and jumping when he heard the bathroom door open. He had just enough time to pull up the game before she was at the door of his office. What game is that? She asked, curious about what he'd been doing. She didn't game a lot, but maybe it was something they'd be able to do together. Civilization V. They have 6 out now, but I still prefer 5. I've never played it. You'll have to teach me sometime. Basically, it's all about conquering the world, he explained. You start with one unit of settlers in prehistoric times, and you invent everything along the way, up until you can win the space race. You can win cultural, diplomatic, domination, and space race victories. All my friends were all about killing and the domination victories, but I really prefer the space race. It's a lot harder to get in this version than in older ones, though. It sounds fun. Athena was wearing a robe, but underneath it was her sexy nightgown she'd planned to wear the night before. She waited until he turned to look at her, and untied the belt on the robe, dropping it onto the floor. She cringed a little when she heard the clunk of her book as it fell, but he didn't seem to notice. The blue silk nightie she wore matched her eyes perfectly, and it covered all of the necessities, but it only really covered them with lace, and he could see everything underneath, though it was shadowed a little. Aaron felt like he'd swallowed his tongue. Is this an invitation? He knew he should say no until he'd come completely clean with her, but he also knew he didn't have that kind of willpower. If she was willing, then he was going to accept the gift she was offering so sweetly. She nodded. Let's go to bed, Aaron. He didn't have to be asked twice. He got to his feet and took her hand, pulling her along with him to their bedroom. He tried not to yank her, or run, but he was in a bit of a hurry now that he'd seen her in that get-up. Once she'd shut the door behind them, though he didn't really know why it needed to be closed, he put his arms around her and kissed her, his hands roaming along her back and molding her nightgown to her skin. I like this thing, he said softly. I thought you might. Athena grinned at him. She was eager to get this show on the road. You should strip for me. He gaped at her for a moment. I don't know about that. He'd never imagined stripping for a woman, and on his wedding night? Well, the night after his wedding night, but it still counted as far as he was concerned. I do. Come on. It'll be fun. Aaron thought she'd lost her mind once again, but if it meant sex, he was all in. He slowly removed his shirt, while she lounged on the bed, watching him. She cheered and waved a dollar bill in the air, and he had to wonder where she'd been hiding the thing. She certainly didn't have any pockets. When he was naked, he walked toward the bed, sitting on the side of it. There, I stripped. Are you happy? What? No lap dance? He shook his head. No lap dance. I stripped for you, and that's it. He wouldn't know how to go about doing a lap dance. Did she think he'd done this before? Fine. She leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. I think I like kissing you better than watching you strip anyway. He chuckled. I know I like kissing you. What's not to like? It wasn't long before he had her nightie off, and he was stroking her bare skin. His lips went to her nipple, and she wound her fingers through his hair, gasping at the sensations from what he was doing. That feels so good. His lips came back up to hers, and he pushed her onto her back, lying beside her as he toyed with her skin. You feel good. You're so soft everywhere. You're not, she said, rubbing her cheek against his shoulder. I love the muscles. Comes with working for a living, he said. I'll keep doing that. She laughed. Such a good idea. Who knew you were so brilliant? And then he kissed her again, and she fell silent as his hands roamed in places no man had ever touched her before. When he finally joined their bodies, she cried out, but not with pain. With sheer wonder. How had she never done this thing that felt so good? When it was all over, and he lay beside her, stroking her hair, she smiled. Let's do that again soon. He chuckled. Anytime you feel like it, you just let me know. And you'll let me know if you feel like it? She asked. She wasn't going to be the one to make all the moves in their marriage. He had to take turns with her. You bet your sweet big toe. What makes you think my big toe is sweet? She asked. No clue, but I'm sure with a little honey. Good point. She yawned. Now I need sleep. Are you even tired yet? His sleep schedule was so strange to her, but he obviously thought hers was strange. They'd have to work at figuring things out, but after making love with him, she was determined they would figure them out. Not particularly, but I slept late. I'll go to my office. He kissed her softly once more and grabbed his underwear from the floor where he'd dropped them, pulling them back on. He didn't need to wear anything, of course, but it was very strange to write with nothing covering your nether regions. Good night, Athena whispered as she rolled to her side. She was asleep before he'd left the room, and he stood watching her for a moment. Work, he said softly to himself as he left the room. This book would be important if he was going to do all the things he wanted to do. He planned to car shop the next day while she was at work. He knew he should be writing every spare minute, but she needed something new before winter. As he settled down at his computer, he had a smile on his face. His new bride was certainly lovable when she wasn't being as prickly as a cactus. Asterisk. Aaron drove to the small Jeep dealership in town as soon as he got up the next morning. He'd missed Athena because she'd risen and gone well before he'd thought about getting up. He parked down the street and walked to the car lot, looking at different vehicles there. He hadn't been shopping long when a man he knew from high school came out and shook hands with him. Hey, Aaron. Hi, Cody. I'm looking for an SUV for my new bride. I need four-wheel drive for her. She's driving an old beater, and it's a car. I don't know how she makes it through winters in the thing. But he did know she was never going to do it again. No, sorry, only the best for his wife. I heard you were getting married, Cody said, smiling. Oh? Who told you? Aaron hadn't been aware anyone really knew. It had all happened so quickly, but it was a small town, and rumors flew every which way. Rusty. She came into the watering hole on Saturday night, and she had some choice words to say about you and your new wife. Aaron flinched. I hate that I hurt her. She's going to be all right, Cody said, smiling. Have you seen her at all this week? Aaron was a little surprised at the interest Cody seemed to be showing in Rusty. He'd never really noticed it before. Not really. I mean, I saw her in the horse barn yesterday evening, but she had her "don't mess with me" face on, so I just kept walking. Aaron shook his head. There was no way he was messing with a pissed-off Rusty. I don't blame you. She looked okay though? Yeah, why wouldn't she? I mean, she still looks mad at me, but nothing more. Okay, good. Cody rubbed the back of his neck. Let's look at some vehicles. You want new or used? New would be good. I doubt if she's ever had a new car. Her parents are obviously the sort who teach their kids to do for themselves, which isn't a bad thing at all, but I want to spoil her. All right. Depending on what you want to spend, we can go as low as 24 to as high as 46. I'm not super worried about price. I want something that will be safe for her and will keep her warm. Some room to transport plants because she's a horticulturist. Aaron listed a few other things he was specifically looking for, and Cody nodded. Let me show you what I have. An hour and a half later, Aaron left the dealership, having given Cody instructions to deliver the vehicle that night. Aaron was usually careful about spending money, but he hadn't wanted to finance the car. He lived comfortably on his salary at the ranch, so every dime he made from writing was either tucked away in a bank account or invested. He had a very tidy sum saved, and he had paid cash for the vehicle. Cody's eyes had widened, but he hadn't asked any questions, which thrilled Aaron because he wouldn't know how to answer them. He had time to write 2 chapters before Athena got home from work, bringing her suitcase full of clothes once again. Do you want me to put those away while you cook supper? He asked. That would be great, if you really don't mind. She walked to him and pressed a kiss to his lips. I'm sleepy today. Maybe no long walk after supper. She wasn't sure she could even stay awake through supper. She hadn't been to bed as late as 10 in a very long time. That's fine. Are you all right? Athena nodded, hiding a yawn. Perfectly fine. I'm just not used to staying up so late. He'd frowned. He'd left their room, and she'd fallen asleep at 10. How late did she usually stay up? Then he remembered she'd told him 8:30. Wasn't that the bedtime for toddlers? All right. Do you want to just go out for supper? She shook her head. No, you never know what preservatives restaurants put in their foods. I prefer to make my own whenever I can. Okay. He took her suitcase into their bedroom and carefully hung up her clothes, not sure what she wanted to do with her underwear and bras, but he tucked them into the top drawer. He felt a little like a pervert as he touched her underwear, but he reminded himself she was his wife. It was perfectly fine for him to put her laundry away. When he was finished, he walked out to the kitchen. Everything is put away. I put your underwear in the top drawer of the chest of drawers. I hope that's all right. Of course. Just so I can find everything. She filled 2 bowls and carried them to the table. Nothing fancy tonight. I just made a good salad with strips of grilled chicken in it. Sounds good, Aaron said, not really meaning it. He was going to have to start keeping his unhealthy snacks in his office. He wasn't giving up eating tasty things just because she'd married him, and she liked to always eat healthy. Apparently, she thought he should always eat healthy too. Eventually, he hoped he could get her past that. He sat down and ate every bite of the salad, but there were some weird things in it. He wasn't pleased, but he wasn't going to hurt her feelings either. He hoped that didn't become a theme in their marriage. How was your day at work today? It was good, she said. I have a new client who wants me to do a complete landscape job for her. It will bring in some good money, and maybe I can buy that greenhouse I want. She really wanted another dozen of them, but she didn't tell him that. He'd think she spent money like crazy, and that was far from the truth. Sounds good to me. He had no idea how much she made, but he could tell being mostly independent was important to her. How do you feel about kids? She smiled. I feel like I want a dozen or so. What about you? Athena could picture them on a porch, sipping fresh lemonade while children played all around them. Surprisingly, in her mind, all the children looked identical to their father. Maybe 3? A dozen sounds like a lot. True, but I come from a large family with 2 sets of twins. Do you want twins? The idea of twins was scary to him. She shrugged. I hear they're bound to happen if we keep living on Cauldron Land. Well, we're moving, remember? I forgot to ask around about architects today. I'll do that tomorrow. She frowned. You're not working at all this week? Shouldn't a man tell his wife when he was taking so much time off work? I'm getting stuff taken care of. I haven't had a day off in months, and I had some errands to run. I got you a gift today. He could hear a vehicle door closing, so he had to assume that's what it was. He couldn't wait for her to see her new SUV. She was going to love it. You did? Birthday candles yesterday, and now something again today? The man was spoiling her in a way she wasn't certain she wanted to be spoiled. He nodded, wiping his mouth with a napkin. Let's go see. He held his hand out for her, and she took it. What kind of gift? I didn't get you anything. She was very hesitant. I don't need anything. You really need this. When he opened the door, the new Jeep SUV he'd purchased was sitting there in the driveway, right behind her car. What did you do? She asked, dropping his hand and walking forward. Do you like it? He asked, waiting for her to get excited and tell him how wonderful he was. It's nice, but I have a car. She'd been driving the same car since she was 19 and had saved up every single penny she had for her own set of wheels. She loved Joey, as she called the car. Why would she replace him? He shook his head. You have a car. You need something bigger for lugging plants around, and so you have four-wheel drive in the winter. I don't want you getting stuck in a storm. I can't afford the payments on something new. My car is paid for. So is this one. I had some money set aside, and I used it. She gaped at him. But my car is mine. I earned it with my own money. I love my car. He frowned. He had expected her to be happy, not upset with him. You don't like it? It's nice, but I have a car. Why couldn't he understand that she didn't want him giving her things? Why don't you use your car in the summer, but this new one in the winter and when you need to take plants from one place to another? After she'd broken down on the side of the road a few dozen times, she was sure to tell him that she wanted to only use the new one. She pursed her lips. I guess I can do that. I hope you're not planning on buying me a bunch of extravagant gifts. I'm a simple woman who needs little to be genuinely happy. All right, he said. I just wanted to do something nice for you. He wished she could understand that he'd purchased it because he loved her very much. Love? Nah. He just cared. He couldn't love her yet. That was faster than people fell in love even in his novels. She hurried to him and kissed him. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I really wasn't expecting this. No one expects a surprise. That's why it's called a surprise. I guess. She was still looking at the SUV like she had never seen one before. Thank you for the sweet gift. You're very welcome. I don't want to have to worry about you in winter. And now you won't, she said with a smile. I guess I can look at it as you spent this money on yourself so you wouldn't have to deal with worrying about me. Yes, you can. Perfect idea. He looked around and spotted Cody a few houses down talking to Rusty. Now what was he doing there? He smiled. Maybe the two of them had a romance going on. It would only be good for Rusty. He walked into the house and helped her clear the table. She frowned when he threw away the other half of his salad. You didn't like it? He shrugged. I'm really not much of a salad eater. I'll remember that. And I'll help you learn to love salads. If it was the only good thing she accomplished in the next year, she would manage to add more vegetables to his diet. Once the dishes were done, she took a shower and went to bed. She didn't invite him to join her, and he was disappointed, but also glad he had uninterrupted time for his book. He should finish in another 24 hours, and then he could just work and be married for a while. No more deadlines for a good long while. When he finally went to bed, he was only 3 chapters from the end. He could write that in a day if he had to, and he had to. So, the next day was it. He climbed into bed beside Athena and watched her sleep for a minute before he closed his eyes. He wasn't sure what he'd done to deserve her, but she seemed to be there to stay. Chapter 8. Aaron wrote the night, and he was just ready to crawl into bed when Athena woke up. She stretched and smiled at him. Good morning. I feel so good after a good night's sleep. He merely grunted, needing sleep more than he needed a cheerful discussion about the benefits of sleep. He'd finished the book a little earlier than he'd expected, so he could send it off to his editor. Usually, he took the time to read through the book first, but he just didn't have it in him. Hopefully, his editor wouldn't catch any glaring plot holes. He honestly wasn't sure what he would do if she did, because he didn't have the hours in his day to take care of them. He hadn't felt quite this overwhelmed with life and all he had to do since he'd finished school. Writing had always been a blessing, something he wanted to do. And now? Well, now he had some serious decisions to make. Athena laughed at his grunt. It's 4:30. Time to get up. He opened one eye and looked at her. I got in bed 15 minutes ago. He pulled his pillow over his head, trying to drown out the light she'd turned on in their bedroom. She frowned at that. So, you aren't going to run with me this morning? He sighed. Didn't we have this discussion already? On Monday? He removed the pillow and looked at her. I am not a morning person. Well, I was sure you'd have changed your mind by now. You have to see that my way of doing things is better than yours. Look at you, all grumpy, and here I am, happy as a lark. In about 3 minutes I'll be as happy as a sleeping lark. That's all I ask for in this world. Why couldn't she understand that he needed to live the hours that were best for him? She shook her head. Fine. Be a grump and sleep all day. I'll leave your freshly squeezed orange juice in the fridge, and your herbs on the table. K. He said nothing else as he closed his eyes and fell asleep, while Athena wandered around starting her day. Athena made herself bacon and eggs and sat at the table to eat her breakfast alone. She kept glancing toward the door where Aaron was sleeping. Having breakfast together was supposed to be the highlight of their marriage, but instead, he slept half the day away. She wasn't sure how they were going to make things work if he persisted in sleeping those odd hours. After breakfast, she glanced out the window at the new SUV he'd gotten her. Her keys were on the table, and she wondered what had come over him to buy her a car without first discussing it with her. She knew he couldn't possibly make enough to be dropping that much money on a car for no apparent reason. She left, taking Joey, the car she loved, and wondering how she was going to appease him when she didn't ever plan on driving the monstrosity he'd purchased for her. Asterisk. The first thing Aaron did when he woke up was take the herbs with his freshly squeezed orange juice. He seriously considered trashing them, but he'd told her he'd take them, and there were enough lies between them with his hiding of his hobby. Sleep had given him an idea about how they could live their lives more harmoniously, but he had to check a few things first. Getting his ducks in a row was important when he was about to take a drastic step out of his comfort zone. Seeing his financial planner was one of the first things he needed to do. He wanted to make sure his plans weren't crazy, and he could really make them work. By the time Athena was home from work, he'd done what he'd set out to do, and he'd met with an architect who was more than willing to work with them to design their dream home. He had lots of ideas about what he wanted, but he was willing to listen to her ideas for the home as well, of course. She probably wanted a sunroom that faced the east for early mornings, and he wanted a huge office with a mini fridge and a small pantry where he could keep his snacks she didn't want him to have. Perhaps there could be a room for her to play apothecary in, creating her herbs for sale. He knew that would probably please her. The hard part was going to be sitting down and telling her what he did for a living. He could easily support them on his writing salary and support them well, but it would mean quitting his job at the ranch, which would mean coming out of the romance writer closet. He wasn't sure he was ready to do that with anyone yet. Athena smiled at him. "How was your last day off?" she asked. She seemed genuinely excited to see him after work every day, and he wanted desperately to make things work out between them. He shrugged. "Busy like the others. I found an architect, and he'd like to meet with us this weekend about designing a house." "This weekend?" she asked, her eyes wide. "You're moving awfully fast on all this stuff." He nodded. "I really am. Sit down for a minute. I need to talk to you about something important that I'm afraid you're not going to like." She frowned at him but walked around to sit at the table with him. "Please tell me you're not a crossdresser. I think I could handle anything but that." "I'm not a crossdresser." "Why would you think I was?" Aaron had no idea where that had come from. "Oh, one of my sisters, who shall remain nameless, was dating a crossdresser. It kind of freaked her out when he told her, and she wasn't sure how to handle things." She shrugged. "I guess it was on my brain for a second there." Aaron felt as if she'd confused him more than he was ready for. No, that's not what it is. I'm glad. But, what I want to tell you is that there's something I do that is traditionally female. He looked down at his hands, unsure how this conversation would go. It was so much harder than he'd imagined it would be. I write romance novels. Athena laughed. Sure, you do. Had he seen her novel she had left in her robe pocket? Was he making fun of her? She hoped not, but if he was saying he wrote romance, then he couldn't hate her for reading it. I really do. I use a pen name, and I've been doing it on the side since I finished college. I'm on lots of bestseller lists. That's what I was hiding in my hobby room. I packed up all the paperbacks and put them in storage so you couldn't see them. He spoke to her earnestly, his eyes begging her to understand. I don't believe you. He sighed. It's true. I write under the pen name Aaron McLean. She gaped at him. You're trying to tell me you're my favorite romance writer? You found my book, didn't you? That's why you're doing this. I don't know what you're talking about. She found the robe she'd worn until she climbed in bed the night before, but the book was still in her pocket. She pulled it out and shoved it at him. This is the first Aaron McLean novel I've ever read. I've been through it 8 times. And you're trying to tell me it wasn't only a man who wrote it, but it was you? Men can't write romance. He smiled at the cover. I definitely wrote that book. It's about Samantha and Nick. Samantha was a kindergarten teacher and Nick was an architect. He was a single dad, and she was a widow. She babysat his son because their boys were best friends. Should I continue? Athena sat down abruptly. You really wrote this? No matter how many times he told her he had, it was still hard to believe. Her sexy cowboy of a husband was a romance writer? It made absolutely no sense at all. He nodded. I did. And I make a good healthy living from just writing, but then I work on the ranch as well. Doing both jobs isn't going to be good for our marriage, because I'm working so many hours every day. I thought that I could quit working on the ranch, and we'd move to a place until our new home is built, but you'd have to be okay with people finding out that I'm a writer, and possibly a romance writer. They had to be able to explain how he could quit working when she obviously made peanuts. She just stared at him in shock. I'm married to a romance writer. She couldn't think about the other part of what he'd said. She was too busy trying to figure out how she'd gotten married to her favorite writer without knowing. It made no sense to her at all. Yes, you really are. He shrugged. How would you feel about me quitting my job at the ranch and supporting us on my writing income? That was the important part of what he was saying, and she simply wasn't responding to it. Athena frowned. Why not quit the writing and support us on your ranch income? I make a good living on the ranch, but it's not the kind of living I make from my writing. I want to be able to travel and build that house we're talking about. I can't do that on my salary on the ranch unless we're really frugal. I have a dream of going to Europe and Australia. I want what's best for my family, and that's a secure financial future. I feel like I can provide that with my writing in a way I can't with my salary on the ranch. He paused and tried to figure out how to phrase things so she'd understand. Besides, when I started working on the ranch, it was supposed to be just till I finished college. But it became the perfect cover for my writing. Writing is my passion. I couldn't give it up for anything. Working with the horses is fun, but I don't want to do it forever. She sighed. But you could write a different genre, couldn't you? Surely there had to be a way for him to do what he loved and not write romance. Though, she wasn't sure why she was so against him being a romance writer. If he was a woman, she would applaud him for it. I could. But my name is recognized in romance, and I really do enjoy writing it. You read romance, so why can't I write it? Aaron wanted her to understand where he was coming from, but she seemed to be looking for reasons he should stop writing, and not wanting to understand. Athena shook her head. It just feels so weird knowing my husband is a romance writer. My thought is that we can make our schedules mesh better if I'm not working at the ranch. I could still be the night owl that I love being, and you could still be a morning person. If I work until 4:30 when you wake up, then we could go for that morning run and have breakfast together. While you work all day, I'll sleep. Then we'll have evenings together, and I'll start writing after you go to bed. He shrugged. It makes sense. We'll have the maximum amount of time together. Are you trying to get out of sleeping with me now? Athena couldn't believe how much this whole conversation bothered her. How could he be her favorite romance writer? It was like her entire world had been turned upside down. No, I'm not trying to get out of sleeping with you. I just think you'll be happier if we can go on those morning runs together. When I start working again tomorrow, you'll be gone before I get up. I'll be gone when you get home from work. By the time I get home, you'll be ready to sleep. We'll only see each other on the weekends. If you're happy with that, we'll try to make it work. He took a deep breath. But I would feel like someone had cut off one of my legs if I had to stop writing. It's so much a part of me, I don't think I could be happy without it. And I really don't want to start over. She sighed. And I don't think I want to go without the books you write either. She shook her head. I don't want to keep you from your dreams, but I don't know if I'm ready for the world to know I'm married to a romance writer either. I can understand that. We could tell people that I'm quitting to help you with your greenhouses. I wouldn't mind that, but eventually, I think I want people to know the truth. I've received accolades for my writing, and though I don't like the idea of telling people I'm a romance writer, I also don't like the idea of hiding who I am for the rest of my life. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. She nodded. I can understand that. I love your books, and I'm picky. You should be proud of what you've done. Athena smiled at him slightly. Give your notice. No matter what I'm feeling about this, what matters is you getting what you need. Aaron leaned toward her and held her close. Thank you. I so appreciate you being all right with this. She shrugged. I don't know that I am, but I know that I can't hold you back. He wished he could explain why his writing meant so much to him, but he wasn't certain it was possible. He had to write to breathe. I'll give my notice tomorrow. We'll have to find a place to stay until our house is built. We're going to have to leave this rental. She frowned at him. You're not going to want an elaborate, expensive house, are you? Probably. Should we get that fight out of our systems now? Or should we wait till later? She sighed. There's still going to be room for more greenhouses, right? Of course. I wouldn't take your dream from you any more than you'd take my dream from me. He smiled. I want a huge office for my writing, complete with a mini fridge and a small pantry for my snacks. I have to have writing snacks, or I just can't accomplish anything. I can start making hummus and you can eat it with carrot sticks, she suggested excitedly. I'll take care of purchasing my writing snacks, but thank you. I also really want a sunroom on the east side of the house. I think you'll enjoy eating breakfast in there, where you can watch the sunrise. Athena smiled and nodded. I'd like that a lot. And I want a really nice kitchen. I have my ridiculously small cooking area in the shed, and then your small galley kitchen. I want to have 2 ovens and a built-in microwave. I want to be in charge of designing the kitchen. The job is yours. Aaron grinned. It's going to be fun thinking about everything we want in this house and then building it to our own specifications. It sounds like a whole lot of fun, she said. Something we can do together that will be good for both of us. I can think of lots of things we can do together, he said, leaning forward and nipping her lip. She laughed. We'll do that after supper. I'm hungry. So am I, he said. He wasn't thinking of food though. Chapter 9. Aaron and Athena saw very little of each other over the next 2 days as he got back into the routine of working. First thing on Thursday afternoon, he sat down and talked to Jim. He'd already had a letter of resignation typed up, and he handed it to his boss. It was easier than having to say the words aloud. Jim looked down at it and frowned. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm very dyslexic. Is this a letter of resignation? It is, Aaron said. It's time for me to move on. It was just as hard to say as he'd imagined it would be. I can't say I didn't expect it. You've done good work here, but it's not your passion like it is for some others. Aaron nodded. I'm leaving to pursue my passion. He couldn't deny it. The people who were working with the horses, because they could do nothing else, were very different than him. They were the ones who worked overtime every week and were constantly in the horse barn even when they weren't working. Aaron spent his time off hunched over a keyboard. Jim smiled, leaning back in his chair. They had borrowed Bob's office, because Jim didn't need one. He would rather spend his time with the animals, nurturing and training them, than sit at a desk pushing papers all day. And are you ready to tell me what that passion is? Aaron sucked in a deep breath. He trusted Jim. The man was as good as the day was long, and Aaron knew Jim would keep his secret. He'd only spoken the words aloud to Athena, and perhaps it was time for him to admit what he did. I'm a writer. I've had books on all the bestseller lists. Jim grinned. I can see that. It just seems to fit you. You'll have to tell me one of your titles so I can listen to it. Aaron shook his head. I'm not sure I'm ready for that yet. Why not? You're not ashamed of your books, are you? I think you should be screaming that you write from the rooftops. Jim smiled. I wish I could just write a letter well, and here you are writing novels. Well, the thing is, I write romance novels. There, he'd said it. Aaron was embarrassed and proud all at once. You do? Jim grinned. I love that. Aaron was definitely surprised by the response. Why is that? He thought the other man would laugh at him, but instead he was being encouraging. Maybe he should have been open about it sooner. Because it's different. You're being who you were meant to be, and I can't help but respect you for it. Aaron chuckled. You're only the second person I've told my secret to. The first did not react nearly as well as you did. He couldn't believe how well Jim was taking the information. He wished he'd had the courage to tell him years ago, because the support would have been amazing. I hope the first person you told was that new wife of yours. You can't hide that kind of secret from your spouse. I did tell her. She's still not sure how she feels about it. I thought I could do both jobs, and I can, but I can't do both jobs and be married. I stay up all night writing, and then I never see her. The woman is in bed by 8:30 every night. I've never seen anything like it. Aaron shook his head. Jim grinned. Well, you probably need to quit then. Do you make enough from your writing to support your family? Aaron nodded, smiling. I make a small fraction at this job of what I make writing. It was a good cover story for anyone who asked what I did. And he wouldn't be happy to go, but it would be a relief not to have to work quite so many hours. Well, more power to you then. Are you willing to finish out the rest of the week? I have a guy who I've decided to hire, and he wants to start Monday. I was going to add him to the crew and not replace you, but it seems like just the right time for you to go. Of course, now I'll have to hire someone else. I don't need to do the full 2 weeks. Aaron asked. Nope. Not unless you just want to for some reason. Aaron was relieved. Working with Rusty for 2 days would be hard. Working with her for 2 weeks felt like absolute torture. He wanted to go back to their easy friendship, but he knew it couldn't happen. It wouldn't work for Rusty, and it wouldn't work for Athena either. That sounds great to me. Thank you. Then when Chad starts on Monday, you're free. Is a month long enough to find a place off property? I can give you longer if need be. A month is more than generous, and I'll try not to use all that time. Aaron got to his feet and offered his hand to Jim's to shake. It's been an honor working for you and learning from you. You never know. I might need to write a romance series about 6 triplets finding love. Jim laughed. I'm sure the romance would be a lot sweeter than the real thing. Every one of us made our wives crazy in some way. Well, that makes sense, Aaron said. They forgot to lick their fingers when they saw you coming. He laughed as he mentioned the superstition there in the valley. Jim waved Aaron away. Go get some work done. If you want, ask Rusty to cover the second half of your shift today and tomorrow. She's been starved for hours. It's probably not a good idea. She's kind of mad at me. I'll ask her then. Assuming you'd like the time off if you can get it. Sure. Rusty glared at him after talking to Jim. I'm not going to cover your hours so you can spend time with your silly little goddess. With that she stalked off, and Aaron sighed. Jim shrugged at him, as if to say he didn't know what had happened, but Aaron knew. She was still angry with him for marrying Athena. At the end of his shift on Friday, Griselda came out and brought cupcakes for everyone. Aaron noticed there wasn't one with red icing that time, and he had to wonder why. The woman certainly did baffle him. The weekend was spent house hunting and meeting with the architect, Eli. When Aaron and Athena sat down with him, he asked them what their budget was. Aaron named a figure that had Athena's eyes popping out of her head. If it's more than that, we can finance the rest. It depends what you want if it's more or less than that. That's your cash price? Eli asked. He made a note on the pad in front of him. Yeah, that's cash. And even if Aaron didn't make another dime until the house was built, they would still have enough to live on, and that wasn't likely with a release in a month. Athena frowned. I'm not sure we should spend that much on a house. I want a room for you to blend your herbs with shelves all around. A room adjoining the master, to be used as a nursery. An office that is custom-made to my specifications. You want to design the kitchen? Aaron shrugged. It's not going to be cheap. And we can afford it. Athena sighed. All right. If you say so. She almost felt like they were doing something wrong, spending the money he'd made from writing. It felt, well, strange to spend it when he hadn't admitted to anyone how he'd made it. They spent 3 hours with the man, listing absolutely everything they thought was essential in their house. Athena wanted a huge master bathroom with a jacuzzi tub, while Aaron wanted heated floors in that bathroom. Tal was awfully cold on bare feet during a Montana winter. By the time they were done, Eli nodded. I have some good ideas now. I'll have plans drawn up in about 2 weeks, I would say. This is going to be a really fun project. I hope so. I know I'm excited about it, Aaron said. I'm sure you are. They shook hands, and Aaron and Athena left the building. Do you really think we need a 6-bedroom house? She asked as they left. Aren't you the one who told me you wanted a dozen kids? Aaron couldn't figure the woman out. She wanted so many things, but she didn't want to have them easily. Their lives would be so much easier if she'd stop fighting using his money for the things they wanted and needed. I am, but it still seems excessive. He sighed. It doesn't to me. Now, let's get supper out. We've been in that meeting forever, and I know you don't want to cook tonight. Athena bit her lip. But we don't know what ingredients go into the food when we eat out. What if it's not organic? One non-organic meal won't kill us. Besides, I'm craving a steak. All right. Athena felt like she was making all the compromises in their marriage, and she wished he would be willing to bend a little more. He'd even found a way to keep from getting up early with her, when they both knew it would be better for him. After supper, they drove back to the ranch, and she stared out the window. "Are you sure about that house?" she asked. "It's a lot of money." "I'm sure. Most people buy houses they have to pay on for 30 years. Ours should come in under the amount of cash we have sitting around." "Cash you have sitting around?" Aaron frowned. "Now that we're married, it's our money, not mine." "I guess. I just feel like I'm going to be a financial burden." "Well, I don't feel that way," he said. "You can keep working as long you want to work, but you don't need to. I'll keep doing what I love, but I'll get to do it full time. I can't tell you how excited I am that I won't have to work on anyone else's schedule ever again." She sighed. "I guess that's a good thing." He could tell it was a difficult topic for her. "How is your landscaping project going?" "Really well. I've got most of the plants I want on hand, and I'll just need to plant them later this week." She yawned behind her hand. "Wow, it's after 9 already. The day just disappears when you sleep in." "You slept until 6. How could anyone consider sleeping until 6 sleeping in?" "I know. I haven't done that in years." Athena shook her head. "I don't want to get into bad habits." "I have a feeling you're doing just fine where habits are concerned." He pulled into the driveway and parked his truck. "I try to get up early on Sundays for church." "Oh, good." She was surprised. He seemed incapable of dragging himself out of bed before noon, which was an absurd time to wake up. "We can spend the whole day together." Really, he'd want a nap badly, but with her feelings about his sleep schedule, he figured he should skip it. "Are we still looking at houses in town tomorrow afternoon?" she asked. "Yup. There are only 2 rent houses, but I think we can find something that will work for the next year or so while they build the house." He shrugged. "I think there are openings at the apartment complex as well, but I'd rather get a house." "I sure hope so. Don't you feel that life is a roller coaster at the moment, spinning us wildly out of control?" Aaron smiled. "I feel like I'm finally in control of my life for the first time in a very long time, so no, I don't feel that way. I wish I felt in control." He frowned. "Do you always have to be in control? Maybe you could let me take care of you just a little bit." "I'm not sure that's even possible." Athena shrugged. "I want to keep you healthy with my herbs and early mornings, and you won't have any of it." Why couldn't he understand how much more healthful it was to get up early? "I've taken your herbs every day." She sighed. "I guess we'll start running in the mornings together on Monday." "I'll need to be content with that." Aaron wished he could understand what was still worrying her so he could fix it. It was his job to keep her happy, wasn't it? Chapter 10. They chose the second house they saw the following day. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and it would work well for them while they were having their own home built. It was available, thanks to the renter who was supposed to move in that week changing plans, so Aaron and Athena immediately signed papers for it. That next week, they tried out their new schedule, and while Athena slept, Aaron packed up their belongings. When she woke, they had breakfast, went for a run, and he went to bed while she went to work. He'd have to start a new book before long, but he really wanted to be settled in their new home first. By the end of the week, the entire house was packed up, and they were ready to move. Thankfully, both houses were furnished rentals, so there was no moving of furniture. It was just boxes and their personal belongings. It still took them the whole weekend to get everything moved and unpacked, but they were thrilled when it was done. On Sunday evening, Aaron and Athena sat in their new living room, and she snuggled against his side. "I like this place," she said softly. "Our first home we chose together. That makes it special." "I do too." "How are you feeling about our new schedule?" he asked, feeling like they hadn't had much time to just talk all week with getting ready for the move. "I like it. I think we're doing well spending time with each other, even though your schedule is still very strange. Athena couldn't get over his habit of being awake through the night and sleeping in the mornings. It made no sense to her at all. It was against nature. He sighed. I'm really sorry you don't approve of the hours I am awake, but they work better for me than anything else. Athena frowned at him. I'm never going to be able to get you to live a healthy lifestyle, am I? You know I'm not unhealthy just because I sleep different hours than you do. Maybe sleeping during the night is normal for others, but it doesn't work for me. I've seen that time and again. I'm happy with my hours. He was tired of her constant complaints about the hours he kept. I don't like how you eat either, she said. I feel like you're a toddler where food is concerned. I'm sorry you find me so dissatisfactory. He got to his feet and left the room, utterly frustrated with the woman. He'd fallen in love with her despite her constant nagging, and he wondered why she couldn't just accept him for who and what he was. He didn't complain that she got up early and was all happy in the mornings, but he found it terribly annoying. He went into the room he'd designated as an office and turned on his computer. Instead of pulling up a Word document, he pulled up the computer game he'd told her about. Several hours of mindless play might help him get over the fact that she didn't think he was good enough for her. It was so frustrating to have her pick apart everything he said and did. He wanted to be loved as he was. He hadn't been playing long when he heard the door open behind him. I'm sorry, she said softly. Oh, yeah? For what? He wasn't even sure she knew why he'd been annoyed with her. She seemed oblivious to everyone's needs, but her own. For constantly trying to change you. She walked over and took the only other chair in the room. I guess when I first saw you, I had all these dreams that I built up about what our lives would be like together. And when we married, it was so different than I'd thought it would be, so I was determined to change you to make you fit who I thought you were before I knew you. She shook her head. That's wrong of me. I love you for who you are, not for the man I imagined you'd be when I first saw you that day. He looked at her, wondering about her declaration of love. Are you sure? Because I feel like every time I turn around, you're trying to change me. I love you, but I'm not sure how much longer I can take that. It's making me just a little crazy. Athena sighed. I do love you. It's a bad habit of mine to think that everyone needs to do things like I do. But I need to change that. Badly. He pursed his lips for a moment before nodding. We'll get through it. Love is all we really need, right? She walked around his desk and plopped down on his lap. Well, love, a 6-bedroom house, 35 greenhouses, a dozen kids, and a partridge in a pear tree. I don't like pears very much, he said, grinning at her. I'll teach you to like pears, she said automatically, but then she caught herself. You know, you don't have to like everything I like. It doesn't mean you're unhealthy if you don't eat one type of fruit. Thank you for seeing that. He knew they would have challenges moving forward, but if they could communicate, he was certain they would find a way to communicate and deal well with one another. I can't promise I'm going to be perfect, because I'm in the habit of thinking everyone should be just like me if they want to be healthy, but I am going to try. And you are free to remind me gently when I forget. You are the man I've dreamed of and want to spend my life with. I will do my best to stop being critical, and just love you for who you are. He smiled. And I'll do my best to overlook the fact that you actually like mornings, so I can love you for who you are. She laughed. I guess what I think is a good quality isn't so great in your eyes. She loved him enough that she could get past it all. He grinned. Not always, but you are great in my eyes. I love you, my little angelic goddess. I love you too, Aaron Dimitri. She leaned down and kissed him. My middle name is Samuel. I like Dimitri so much better. And you don't call me by my real name. He chuckled. You told me I wasn't allowed to. You listened so well. She rested her cheek atop his head. You know what I think we should do? What? I think we should go to bed. Last one to get into the bedroom has to do a strip tease for the other. Before she'd finished talking, she was running toward the bedroom. He shook his head. Why she was so insistent on strip teases, he didn't know. But he'd humor her. Again. Epilogue. Blake Littlelight was hunched over his computer in the small office he shared with his boss at the racetrack, inputting order numbers. It was his least favorite part of the job, and when his phone buzzed in his back pocket, he was grateful for the distraction. When he saw his best friend, Seth's, name on the home screen, he punched the green accept button and put it up to his ear, his eyes flicking back to the computer screen. What's up? Hey, man, you busy this weekend? Frowning slightly, Blake blinked and pushed back from his desk, deciding to forget work for a few moments. He glanced at the ceiling, thinking through his calendar. No, not really. Cool. Aria and I wanted to invite you over for dinner, but any evening works. Whichever day you don't have a date. Blake nodded, although his friend couldn't see it. I was going to head to that bar on 3rd Street on Friday to see if I can meet that cute redhead who's been waiting tables. Oh, and Rebecca said she'd meet up with me later that night. And Janet's been texting me about taking her out on Saturday, but I could come up with an excuse. On the other end of the line, Seth chuckled. We don't want to get in the way of your busy dating schedule. You want to bring Janet on Saturday? Blake considered it briefly, then shuddered. Nah, I don't want to give her the wrong impression by introducing her to my friends. I'm still not sure I'll see her again. How about Sunday evening? Are you sure? Seth teased. There's not another woman you'd like to see Sunday? Of course there was. There was a woman Blake wanted to see every weekend, every day. And she was one Seth would approve of since she was his sister-in-law. Blake had met Athena Weston at Seth's wedding, in fact. He'd danced with every woman there, even the bride, but once he saw her, he couldn't get her out of his head. It was clear she wanted nothing to do with him, and when he finally approached her, she turned him down, hardcore. It was an interesting experience, for a man like him to be turned down by a lady. Blake found himself smiling at the challenge. But it was more than that. He had a feeling Athena Weston would be different from the other women he dated. Every other lady he'd taken out was only a weekend distraction, someone he only thought about the night he was with her. Judging from how often she'd been in his thoughts since turning up her nose at his offer to dance, Blake guessed Lainey would be the kind of woman who knew she deserved 100% of his attention. She was more than just a one-night stand. Hey, Blake? Startling, Blake realized he hadn't answered his friend. Sorry, man. No plans on Sunday. He could ask his friend to invite Lainey to casually run into one another at a mutual friend's house. But Blake admitted the truth. There were plenty of other ladies out there, plenty of fish in the sea. It wasn't like he was looking for love or commitment or anything. He was happy being single. Wasn't he? All right, good. I'll tell Aria to expect you Sunday. I think we're grilling. Awesome. See you then. Blake hung up the same time as his friend and stared at the phone for a moment. Seth's romance with Aria had been a whirlwind, but Blake was happy his best friend had found happiness. Happiness. Was Blake happy? Yeah, totally happy. I don't need anyone else to be happy. I'm perfectly fulfilled the way I am. Stifling a sigh, he shoved the phone back into his pocket and reached for the computer mouse once more, almost convinced he believed that. Almost.